Morning, everyone. So I am actually broken down in my neighborhood. Van has developed this issue where it won't crank, and I really don't know why. It just won't. It won't do a thing. I did this the other day. I had to change. I thought it was the starter. Change starter out in the parking lot. But you see, turn the key, and it doesn't even act like a bad battery, because if there's a battery, like, all the lights would go out, the dinger would get distorted. It's not. So, not a battery, and obviously not a starter. It's got a brand new starter in it. So the only other two things I can think of are the starter solenoid relay that's located near the battery and the ignition switch. So what I'm going to do now is replace the starter solenoid relay. I've got the parts. I hadn't had time to put them in, and I have my tools with me just because I didn't know this was going to happen again. So I can fix it. So come along, let's get this hunk of junk running again. So the starter solenoid relay, sometimes called the steal me switch, it's a characteristic of Fords, and they're almost always mounted on the fender, the passenger fender. But in a van, since everything's all jammed together, it's actually right down in that hole, dark hole where you can't see it. And to get to it, you absolutely have to take your battery out. So I'm going to take these off. These are non-standard. So, I mean, it's a 13, but you're not going to have this set up. I went to a military style to make things easier. And we also have an 8mm on our hold down. Got to get that out of the way. And once that's out of the way, we should actually be able to get access to the solenoid and work on swapping it out. All right, battery out. If you've never seen your hold down, this is what it looks like. It has grooves that line up with, should be the battery. Or no, here they are. They line up on your tray. So it locks in, slides in, holds the battery in place. Might need an extension on that 8. Get this guy out. That's all done. And you can actually do this without removing the tray. Tray gives you more room. I think those are 14s if you so choose to pull your tray out. But that is our guy right there. And we don't want to lose that cap. That cap is absolutely needed because of the lack of space. That's to keep that terminal from potentially wearing a hole in the battery. So we're going to get all the wiring off. And that's going to be, I think, mostly 10s and 12s. And then we can actually work on removing the solenoid itself. So this particular lug is yep, there we go. It's 14. Loose. I just kind of put everything in the tray here. Oh, to get this dude off, to help, you can use a flat blade to kind of push from the back. And keep your fingers on this guy, because if you drop him into the abyss, which I did whenever I was fighting this the first time, you absolutely are going to have to take the tray out and go find him, because like I said, you have to have that cover. Not an option on a van. So do note, you've got 2 lugs here. And they can go on in any order, but you have 2 lugs on this particular post right here. They do need to go back there whenever you're, putting your new one in. You can slide these off. Oh wait, I forgot. So my dad put this together last time and he did it backwards. This particular lug has actually 2 lugs. One goes over there on the other side, and it's supposed to go on the bottom, and then this lug is supposed to go on top. Didn't hurt anything electrically, but that's how it was whenever I first took it apart. So get that other one out, pull it off, and then we can actually work on the fasteners that hold the solenoid to the van. All right, here's our solenoid. You can see this is the original 1997 Motorcraft solenoid. It's a little bit different than the one that goes in my 2001 F-250, but mainly that's because of where it's mounted over here. So it's held in with two fasteners. They are 8mm. And I know I'm not showing you guys much of the action, but that's because number one, I'm in a hurry. I have to be at work here in, I don't know, half an hour or so. And number two, I don't have my tripod. I'm just filming when I can. Anyway, that's all switched out. So I have over here what I believe to be the correct Motorcraft replacement. I try to do Motorcraft when I can. Motorcraft is one of the few brands that still actually truly test their parts before they put them on the shelf. Other guys, the reason why they're cheaper is they don't do the testing. They just assume that it'll be cheaper to do the warranty stuff. So anyway, let's stare and compare. Yeah, that'll work. Let's get the new one in. All right, so we got the new one in case you were wondering how this works. It's a solenoid, so basically that means you've got a little circuit that when it energizes, it allows a big circuit to energize, and that big circuit, what that does is it sends big power down to the starter. The starter has a solenoid on it, does the same thing, energizes that, which then actually turns on the starter motor. And the power for the little circuit comes from here. This is a signal wire that comes from the ignition switch. So when you get something like this where it just don't do junk, it means, you know, you got a bad starter, a bad battery. I know the battery's not bad. I know the starter's not bad because I just put a new one on. Or your ignition switch is bad, or this solenoid is bad. And I'm putting my money on the solenoid. I could be wrong. I do also have the ignition switch on me in case I need it. So as you can see, we've got the double terminal back on. I know there's not a lot of light. There we go. Double terminal is on. This lug's back on. So we can put our signal back on. Behave, signal wire. Get on there. All right. So now we just put our 14mm back on, and don't forget our little cap. We can put the battery in and see what happens. This is how we should look before you put your battery back in. Got your cap back on, got your lugs on, got your signal on, everything's on tight. If you were putting everything in your battery tray should be empty. And let's go ahead and get the battery back in. So one thing to note, if you when you put your terminals back on, you see a spark, hear a pop, it means something is actively drawing power as soon as you're reconnecting the battery. If you're expecting this, that's fine. If you're not expecting this, it might be something you want to track down, that you may have a parasitic drain going on. If you have issues of dead batteries and things like that, you got something drawing that you're not aware of. Might want to go check that out. Anyway, we got this back on. I'm going to tighten these terminals and then we'll crank it and see what happens. All right, here we go. Yeah, it did this last time. So, was not the solenoid. No, that was the ABS pump. That was nice. Yeah, we're getting absolutely nothing, so guess that means we're going after the ignition switch. Fun. The ignition switch shouldn't be too bad. I've done it on my 2001, which in a lot of ways is very similar to this 97. because this is effectively a 97 F-150 in a little bit different package. So we're going to take our trim off, and right there is the ignition switch. I think it's a pair of Torx, yeah, hold this in, and then we can drop the assembly down, swap it out, see what's up. Oh, that's interesting. There's a connector under there. Doesn't have a home. Wonder where that goes to. Okay, if you've never dropped your ignition switch, there you go. It's two T30s. And there they are. Not difficult to do. All right, so check this out. How this works is you got a pin. Okay, that pin inserts into a plastic rod, which is located in the bottom of the steering column. Like so, there's the rod. And then what happens is when you turn the key, it moves this plastic rod, which in turn moves this pin, which in turn will send the crank signal. Right? So what can happen, I didn't think it happened on this Aero Ford, is that rod can break, which can be a thing. So we can check for that. Get my keys here. You can check for that by inserting the key in the ignition, and then it gets super annoying because it's gonna screech, but we can turn the key and see the rod moves. And we see it move, so that's not the issue. Okay, good to know. I have an 89 F350 where that's very much a thing. That rod will break, and then everybody's sad. So, you know, this should be accessory. You can see my stuff's turning on. So we can actually use our hands. We can actually try to do a crank. And we're not getting anything. Yeah, so all right, so maybe this is bad. I don't know. We're gonna swap it out, see what we can get. You can see we got a big dog ear over here that's connecting it to everything. I think there's one over there. So you just pull those dog ears off. Should separate, and then we put the new one in. Okay, so on the old is on the right, new is on the left. This is made by Standard. It's a standard US 274. So I'll reconnect this and see if it cranks. Because if this isn't the problem, then I don't know, guys. There's not really a lot of complicated stuff in the crank circuit. In fact, I don't even think computer control really gets into it. Computer control, I mean, it'll turn on the fuel pump and all that, but for the actual act of cranking, I think it's super straightforward. But we'll see. Hey guys, I have updates, and I got a little humbled, actually. One of my neighbors came by and asked if I was broke down. I said, yeah. And I explained what was going on. He said, hey, might be your neutral safety switch. And that fits perfectly with what the problem is. Because normally when you have like a bad starter or something bad in the starting system, all of your status lights will blink out when you turn the key because it's pulling all that power trying to start, and it can't. That wasn't happening. It just wasn't doing anything, which is exactly what the neutral safety switch is supposed to do. The neutral safety switch is supposed to ensure that the vehicle is in park before it lets you crank. It will not let you crank in any other position. So on this vehicle, the neutral safety switch is the MLPS, the MPLS, multi-position lever switch, and it's located on the transmission, so that's actually what's going bad. But basically, if this happens to you guys, crank the key like you're trying to turn the vehicle on, and then wiggle the gear shift. And when that happened, it got it lined up just enough that it said, oh hey, wait, I'm in park, and so let me crank, and so I'm good to go. But that's actually what the problem is it's the neutral safety switch is going bad. Right? So, or there's a linkage down there that's not working right. So I'll have to investigate that later. But on the E40D, the MLPS or MPLS, whatever the hell it's called, is known for going bad and tripping you up like this. So big thanks to my neighbor to kind of humble me and remind me that just because it looks like an electrical problem doesn't mean it is an electrical problem. But I got to get home and I got to prepare for work, so that's going to end this video. Successful repairs in that we got the solenoid switched out, we got the ignition switch switched out, but both of them are probably good, so they'll go in the keep parts for a rainy day bucket, and if I need them for something else, I'll use them. But the problem is the neutral safety switch.